What is up, folks? What it do? What it do? Episode 55. Your boy Samson here. Officer Hayes. We might potentially have my partner in crime this week. As usual, would be the French Rock Bro, Moody. He's currently out right now, again out of town, handling some family stuff. But we might get a surprise run in later on in the show, depending. I just called him to see if he was going to be hopping on, but haven't got a response. Maybe he's sleeping in a little bit, but doesn't matter. We can still do it by ourselves. Another solo dolo episode if it need be. Let's get into these Sunday Percies. Obviously, we're going to get into the big news of wrestling, but obviously, with these Sunday Percies, we like to start off with outside of wrestling world context, just to kind of get our conversation juices going. And the biggest thing that stood out to me this week is South Park and their season 27 season premiere. It's crazy. South Park has been on for 27 seasons. Um, Episode one of their season 27 premiere was a talker this week. If you are not familiar with what's been going on in the media sense, Paramount has been trying to merge with Skydance and form one company, but it's been upheld by the Trump's FCC administration because Trump was initially suing CBS for their 60 Minutes interview that they were editing during the Kamala Harris Trump presidential election, and a lot of things were being held up as far as the merger goes. South Park was being impacted because they had episodes that they were ready to put out, but again, they couldn't do it because they were waiting for the whole merger thing to go, as well as they were having streaming issues as far as Paramount's streaming deal with South Park coming to an end, and so they needed to renew. To wrap it up, Paramount ended up settling on the CBS on the 60 Minute scandal for $16 million. Paramount also ended up making a deal with Matt Stone and Trey Parker, creators of South Park, to a tune of $1.5 billion to keep their streaming rights on Paramount Plus, which is a record, and that makes the South Park creators billionaires. And so that was Tuesday. The very next day, also as well, the Paramount and Skydance merger was also approved by the FCC for about $8 billion or something along those lines. But the very next day, South Park premiered their 27th season premiere, and it was a direct shot at President Trump. Not even gonna call him President, just Donald Trump. A lot of references to old South Park, where they took Saddam and put him with Satan. They basically did the exact same motif with Trump, and they exercised their First Amendment right to the fullest effect. And what they displayed on that show, Cartman was being depressed that he wasn't as he wasn't the raunchy voice anymore because everybody else is pretty much doing a Cartman right now. It's like, where does Cartman feel whole again? They canceled his favorite channel, NPR, because he liked to listen to NPR because he just liked to hear the liberals bitch and moan. But now he doesn't have that anymore because woke is dead to him. And so it was a very meta social commentary, direct jabs at Trump. They had PSA where they were saying, hey, we need to start making part of the agreement settlement that they came with for the show, within the show, because Trump was suing the city of South Park, was that they needed to make pro-Trump propaganda or just advertisement. And they apparently have 50 in the chamber because the first one was a really well done deepfake of Trump walking through the desert and he's slowly taking off his clothes, and then you see him eventually just laid out, passed out, dehydrated, and it shows that Trump has a little pee-pee and basically telling you, hey, I'm Donald Trump, vote for me, this, that, and the third. But everything about it was just perfect. Shout out to South Park for a great season premiere. Definitely going to be tuning into the rest of the season, especially if you're going to be dropping, because they said 1 out of 50 of those PSAs they have for Trump. So I hope they drop all 50 of them joints at some point within the next, however long the season is gonna go. But man, that's the epitome of exercising your First Right Amendment. Like that is the point. Like Trump is a public figure. Everything that they said on there has been put out on public record, uh, and it is known to some degree, whether it be in a litigious way or just put out through journalism practices and whatnot. But again, for Trump to actually, and they're begging Trump, they literally saying like, please go ahead and sue us. Um, if he does, we're not going to win this. Even the Paramount one where they were suing 60 Minutes, like he didn't really have a litigious case to actually win that case. They settled it because they wanted to get the merger through. And so you see, they also made reference to Colbert getting canceled. And so again, for him to actually, he actually was to sue South Park for this episode and just their perspective and it totally goes against the First Amendment right. I don't know how you're going to win this, but again, they said in the show it's 2025. Pretty much nothing's illegal. So again, if we actually have some backbone as a people, we would not let them get punished for what they were doing because this is no different than anything else. This is our freedom of expression, and they have the right to put that out. Now, do I personally like it? Of course. I can understand on the other side why you wouldn't like it, but hey, a lot of things have been said on the other side that, again, that is your First Amendment right. There's different ways to exercise that First Amendment right. And as long as you're not creating harm or endangering the public, you have all the right to express those expressions, and whether they be right or wrong. Again, not trying to get into the deep side of it, but again, as far as exercising their First Amendment right, they did it to a perfectly T, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the rest of South Park season 27. I can't believe it's 27 seasons. And it's funny because in Trump's response, he called them a fourth-rate show that haven't been relevant in 20 years. So how do you get a $1.5 billion deal and you're on your 27th season and you talking about they ain't been relevant since season 7? Bro, sound like hate over here, but that's just me. I'm going to keep it quiet for the rest of that because we don't want the wrestling re-up to get canceled as well or sued, but we'll see what happens. We on the low totem pole, but they'll find us. But let's get into this show.
Doors opening. Step back to allow customers to exit.
Let it to the crowd. I'm Mr. Hayes, Samson. Naturally here with my tag team partner, the Fresh Pop Pro, Bookie off the top row. You're listening to Wrestling Re-Up Podcast. A weekly stroll through the avenue of wrestling. Post on those socials, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, like, subscribe, comment on the videos, do all the social media things, interact with us, email us everywhere, Wrestling Re-Up Podcast. What up, everyone? Episode 55. I didn't do my number research on who 55 is, and I know there's people out there be like, oh, how you don't have 55 on top of your head? Because sometimes you got to think about it, and I didn't think about it. I had to get ready. You see my hair is not even looking sharp today, but it is what it is, man. Episode 55, do the right thing, and it's going to be aptly titled that because there's a lot of things that we could be doing the right thing. If you've seen the movie, you know that answer, that question, that thought is not an easy answer to answer. So we'll get into it when we get into it, but it's a pretty eventful week for wrestling. We are a week away, officially as of Saturday right now, we are a week away from the first 2-day SummerSlam. And again, we are in a jam-packed card. They added some more matches, some dope matches, especially when we get to SmackDown, what we've been hyping for. But let's start it off and let's get right into the show and jump right into the flagship show of Monday Night Raw. And Raw was a pretty decent show. I think Moody, he's put his thoughts in here for what he thought of the shows this week. Again, potentially waiting on his run-in if he is able to join. But he provided his thoughts and context for some of the stuff that's gone on this week. And he was a little bit higher on this show. And I'll start off with his. And his top shelf, the highest thing that he had pretty much the entire week, I want to recall, if I don't go through all the rest of the calendar, he has this as top shelf. Now, accentuating the now, Roman is a face. And the end of Raw was Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman and company having a bit of a face-to-face talk. Paul Heyman comes out. He does his whole Paul Heyman spiel. Typical. Roman comes out, talks about, I ain't even hear nothing that you said. Paul was telling Roman that I suggest that you leave, but Roman was saying, at one point in time, I would have took your advice and, actually followed it. But now I just realized that you're a dumbass, and there's no point in listening to you anymore because you're not a wise man. And that eventually got Braun Breaker to step in the face of Roman Reigns. They start getting some brawling. Roman's on a 2-on-1 against Bronson and Braun Breaker, and almost has it, but then eventually the size advantage and the speed eventually gets a little bit too much for Roman, where you eventually get his cousin Jey Uso to come through, make the save, and they come out and they demolish the rest of Bronson and Braun security. We're not gonna call them security because they're better than that, but um yeah, Roman is a face according to Moody, and I particularly have this as a mid rising because I'm not quite there to go. I'm not quite there yet to call Roman a face. I think Roman is a face within this situation and context, but I think in the larger perspective of things, I'm not sure where to place Roman right now. I wouldn't. I'm in limbo with Roman as far as like, is he a face or is he heel? Which side is he even leaning on? Obviously, I think he's probably leaning face right now, but it's very smally leaning face. But I'm curious to see what happens with the World Championship, what happens with Cody, and again, once you start getting into some of the things that, because right now I don't see this as much as relevant. I think this is handling some issues with Paul Heyman and company, but I don't see this as a personally. I don't see this as a definite mark of saying that Roman is on a face turn right now. I think within respect of his relationship with Paul and what happened at WrestleMania and how he turned on him, yes, in this situation he is playing the face, but as soon as he interacts with CM Punk or Cody Rhodes or just trying to get the championship in any of those regards, then we'll see where Roman lies particularly. So I'm intrigued where this is going. I'm intrigued to see what his role would be at SummerSlam. Are we going to get a tag team match between him and Jay versus Bronson and Braun at SummerSlam? It seems like that might be the route that we might be headed. But I'm curious. It was a good promo. I was a little surprised. Again, Raw technically has about 3 hours that they can use, but typically they've been using 2.5. And so this actually came on around, I want to say 10:25, 10:28. So a little bit of a run over as far as, the show. I think the show ended around about 10:40, 10:45. So it's typically later than what they have been. They haven't really used the full 3 hours, I want to say, since probably all the way back into January. So, um, again, curious to see what Moody's full thoughts on it. But as for me personally, I say that I'm intrigued. I wouldn't go as far as saying that he's a face now. I think he's a face in this situation, but as a full blown character, he's still in limbo. I think he's still in limbo, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. The things that we did agree on, a primo that we both had was the opening segment of the show, which was the Gunther and CM Punk promo. And again, I think anytime you just get Punk to talk on a microphone, he could bring the best out of anyone. And it's not to say that Gunther is a slack when it comes to talking, but I do think there are some better dance partners when it comes to having dialogue that he has with others. Even if what Gunther typically says is pretty much the same thing, I think within the context of who he's saying it to carries a little bit more weight. And I think in the case of CM Punk, I think that kind of shows because my favorite part in this whole segment when they're face to face is when Gunther's explaining where his ego comes from and how it differs from where CM Punk gets his ego. And he talks about CM Punk's ego is being fed by the fans and getting their cheers. And Gunther was put it plain and simple, and it fits perfectly in line with the character that my ego is results. It is showing you that I'm the best by the results I get. You went through all my accolades, and the results say that me holding this World Heavyweight Championship makes me the best in the world. And SummerSlam, I'm going to add to that accolade by taking you down and retaining this championship. And I thought that was the perfect kiss to the segment, and I thought it shows the great dichotomy between CM Punk and Gunther as far as where they're at in their wrestling and just their styles and just like how they approach the game. And I think that's one thing you can always appreciate Gunther and any one of his feuds is that he takes it as a legitimate sport, as an art. This is a sacred ring, And I could care less about what these fans think. I'm gonna come out here and I'm gonna do the ring rat technician. He's not even like a technician, but again, someone that holds the ring as a sacred space. And it's almost like he's almost always feeling like he's wrestling into an empty room because he is so focused and determined on putting on great matches and showing that he's the best in the world. And so I'm really curious to see how this plays out. I think CM Punk is going to lose. I think there's not. I don't think it's entirely like a 0% chance that CM Punk is going to win. I do think there's a possibly good chance. The fact that Gunther just won the championship a few months ago, not doesn't puts the odds in CM Punk's favor that much. But I can't really see who would stop CM Punk from winning unless like Roman interferes. But like, why would he interfere in the World Heavyweight Championship match? But nonetheless, again, I think when as talented as a talker as CM Punk, as talented a wrestler as Gunther, and then again, you're elevating both of their qualities of being, again, Punk is also a good ring worker, not the one that he used to be when he was younger, but hey, that's age, and then obviously having the time off. Gunther not being on the level of CM Punk's talking, but he's still good, but he's also a great ring work. A ring master, a ring general, as you would say, part of his character. That again, I'm feeling like this is going to be a really great match, and I'm hoping that they give him time. And hey, I would not be mad if CM Punk won the title. I would not be mad to see CM Punk win the title. But if I have to ask me right now, before and we a week away. This does not count. I have the right to change my opinion for next until we make predictions next week. But I think Gunther's got this in the bag, but I'm really looking forward to this match. One of my anticipated matches for SummerSlam. Going down to mids. I already went through my mid, which was Roman confronting Paul and company, but Moody has a stack of them here. All of them matches. Sheamus versus Rusev. This is part two. Round two, we should say. Rusev got the first win, getting Sheamus to hit his head on the turnbuckle, exposed turnbuckle, which we haven't seen in a while. I'm glad they brought that back. Switched it up a little bit, not really unbuckling the entire turnbuckle, but they kind of have like the stem that was covered. They would take that off. He tried to do it again this week. Sheamus was not having it. Rusev tried to get the shillelagh to hit Gunther. Bro kick. 1, 2, 3, Sheamus. They tied up. So it seems like we have for our 2 out of 3 falls. Hopefully that might happen at SummerSlam. Hey, it's 2 nights. You gotta have something, and you gotta have something to fill out. If you're gonna have about 5 matches each on each night, you can give Sheamus and Rusev a night 1 match, and possibly give Sheamus. I think actually, I would say you would give Sheamus the win, but I feel like Rusev, especially coming back to the company and being this redeemer character, seems like it's more in line for someone like Rusev to get this win. But again, these two are great friends outside of the ring, and they're beasts, mammoths. Like it's just gonna be hard hitting, chop slapping, just very, very hard, very tough acting to act, to borrow John Madden phrase. But it's gonna be a slobber knocker, to put it in the words of Jim Ross. That they're just gonna put out great matches. I just want to see what they would do moving forward and how it kind of elevates each character within their story. So curious out of it. I would probably put that mid stable just for the fact that I know these two guys are gonna put on great matches. I'm just not sure which direction that we're heading and how we're gonna elevate each of them. Because again, Sheamus just came back too, and he's got goals, but again, he's reaching on that elder statesman side of his career where you're almost kind of putting people over. But hey, Sheamus still got goals. He's still trying to win some of these championships. Finish off of the Grand Slam championships that he's had. I think he's still missing the Intercontinental Championship to fit into his title case. So we got to get some of that. LWO over the New Day and are now tag team number 1 contenders for the Judgment Day's tag team championships, which I believe we'll probably see at SummerSlam as well. Good match. There was some interference from American Alpha Academy, or not Alpha Academy, American made. El Grande Americano, played by Ludwig Kaiser, came through. Surprise win, I guess you could say, for LWO. But I guess it helps with the New Day spiraling aspect, losing their championships, being in mourning and whatnot. I probably personally have this a shake for the fact that LWO hasn't been around on television for a while. And I don't mind them having a champ. They're great quality wrestlers. There was just no build, and them having a number one contendership against the Judgment Day almost feels like we don't want the Judgment Day to lose, and so we'll give a new group or a group that hasn't had the opportunity that others may have the opportunity to have this championship bout. That I don't feel confident. This is a less. If I feel like CM Punk has a chance, I don't feel like LWO has a chance of winning those tag team titles. I think, especially again, Judgment Day just got it back. They're rocking all the gold. It just seems like again, it's almost seems like a match put together for variety instead of having the same kind of repeat challenger. So I'm not mad at that. I just wish that LWO had a little bit more television time to make me feel uh, a little bit more something when it comes to a little bit more gravitas when it comes to this match and believability that I do think that they could have this win the championship. Because obviously something's going to happen next week. Maybe New Day is bitter. They're going to interfere. I can see eventually this turning into a triple threat that maybe gets paid off at in Clash in Paris or something like that, or the following PLE cycle pop-up show. But um, in this current moment, I like that LWO is getting a chance. They've been away from TV. I just wish that there was a little bit more time spent to actually reestablish themselves as formidable opponents within the tag team contender scene on Raw. So I probably have Shake, but Moody has it in as his mid. Finally, as a mid, Moody had Judgment Day over Bailey and Lyra. And this also started with a segment of Becky challenging, and this is something that Moody has in his shake. Becky challenging Lyra or Lyra actually challenging Becky to a no DQ match at SummerSlam. I believe, I don't know if it was confirmed, but Becky was also saying that if she wins this match, Lyra can't challenge for the Intercontinental Championship after that. So there is a little bit of stakes to this match, similar to their last match that they had back, I want to say, at Night of Champions or Money in the Bank. I forget how long Becky's been having that belt, but entertaining. Again, Lyra, the character, her motivations still just don't vibe with me. She sounds very childish, selfish. Everything she's saying about the others, I'm like, I can understand your beef with Becky, but I don't understand it with Bailey. Either way, she hits the manhandle slam. Lyra hits the manhandle slam on Becky, and then eventually we get a match between Becky and Lyra, which is already not Becky and Lyra and Bailey versus the Judgment Day, and matches again as you would expected. Four great women in this match. Eventually, Becky rolls out under the ring. Lyra's standing on the apron, waiting to get tagged in, while Bailey is trying to, work her way over to the corner. Becky pulls Lyra off the apron, hits her a couple times, it knocks her out. Bailey gets rolled up. 1, 2, 3. Judgment Day ends up winning the match. So cool. Not surprising. I'm just curious to see, again. I'm here for the match. I'm ready for the match. Things for the match be great. Just Lyra's motivations just annoy me. Where I'm like, you can't sell me that she's a face in this situation. You cannot sell me she's a face. I hope Bailey ends up costing Lyra her championship, contendership at SummerSlam. So I'll put that on the books this week. I'm not changing on that. I got Becky retaining, and Bailey is going to be the one costing her that championship. But pretty decent. I didn't have it anywhere specifically. I probably have that as shake as well. Another shake Moody had was a Io Sky versus Stephanie Vaquer was interrupted by the Secret Harvest. Yeah, obviously it's a match that we want to see. This is the second time in like almost consecutive weeks, or at least within a month, that Stephanie and Io have been in a match, and it's again ended in a no contest because of interference of some sort. So it's disappointing, but I get it because it's a highly anticipated match. At some point, I at least want to have some type of finish to this match. Well, I don't care if it's a roll up pin or whatever it is, but we gotta have a roll up at some point. But again, Io is top of the card. Stephanie is basically on the precipice of jumping to the top of the card if she's not already there in theory. But I mean, she's definitely over, but I wouldn't say she's technically at the top of the card, but she's definitely like at the doorstep, first in line at the door for it. So I get we're building anticipation for the match. Just annoyed that it's another match that ended up as a no DQ, as a no contest. Finally, I have this as Shake. Moody has this as Reggie, and I understand why Moody has this as Reggie. This as Shake for the same reason, though, I can imagine. And the fact is, A Town Down Under is no more, and I have this as Shake because we been known these dudes were gonna break up. We were saying it months ago. It should have already happened. They've already passed the expiration date of when it should happen. And the fact that it happened off screen where Grayson Waller just walks up to the New Day backstage as they're saying that they need to find a manager, and it's like, hey, Austin Theory's not here. I don't have to carry that sorry sack of load anymore, and you guys need somebody cool. I'm gonna hang out with y'all. And it's like, bro, I'm cool with them breaking up, but like I said, this was way past due, and you did it off screen. I don't have the effort to put it in Reggie anymore because it would have been Reggie when you did it 6 months ago. Because the fact that it took so long, the fact that you did it off screen just shows that like don't care enough to even put it in Reggie. This is one of the only cases where where my Shake is actually lower than my Reggie just because I don't care to even put it in Reggie. Reggie would mean I was actually genuinely pissed about something. I'm not genuinely that pissed. I'm just like, all right, yeah, but we've been on this. The fact that y'all just haphazardly just threw it away and just like, all right, we just got to move on to the next thing. If y'all gonna treat it like Shake, I'm gonna treat it like Shake. So that's how I feel. But I totally understand Moody for putting it in Reggie because it is Reggie work. It is Reggie work. Obviously, they haven't been on TV like that. Austin Theory's been on main event. I haven't seen the matches, but I've seen the clips pop up on my YouTube feed of him being on main event and having some pretty decent matches. Actually getting over as a face. He has people cheering for him. But yeah, it's something that we've all been waiting for to see months ago. You just kind of did it off screen and just kind of threw Grayson Waller into another thing. So maybe Austin Theory comes back and basically you finally get an Austin Theory Grayson Waller feud because I actually don't want to see Grayson Waller be with New Day. Nothing against. I think they're great talkers. Jealousy would be like Big E. Obviously, he doesn't need to manage, but I mean, he doesn't need to wrestle, but being a manager, it would be nice. Again, that's something we kind of booked or talked about when the initial breakup happened back in January, that eventually Big E would kind of understand their perspective, and then you might even get a heel Big E into it. Door still might be open for that, but if they want to go with Grayson Waller, I can understand that. I prefer not to. I almost prefer to see Austin Theory. And if you, again, it's going to be hard for me to see Austin Theory as a face, but there might be a sliver of hope if you go into this route where Austin Theory is just like, what are you talking about? You was home, I was holding you back. Nah, G, and you get into this kind of Austin Theory, this hard. It's going to be a mountain to climb, but at least for me, it's going to be a mountain to climb, but you might get Austin Theory as a face, and he might be getting over. So that was a flagship show, pretty eventful show. A lot of good stuff in there. And yeah, just kind of continuing that build and anticipation for SummerSlam. So they did a fairly good job of doing that. Let's move over to the bodega, NXT. NXT was held out of Houston. Big show, especially when we had Trick Williams last week, basically calling out The Undertaker and said, meet me in Houston and we're going to see what's real. But before we get into that, again, Moody had the highest thing on here, and I think he mistyped this because he has Santino Marella versus Tricky Williams for the TNA title next week. Maybe that's happening, but I know Santino came out and had a pretty fun segment with Ethan Page, who threw down the old North American Championship and introduced a new variation of the championship with the Canadian flag on it as well. That brought out Santino. Santino talking about you don't carry yourself with class or respect and this, that, and the third, but I do. And I'm going to challenge you next week for that North American Championship. So I thought that was a good segment. Moody has that as a primo. I have that as my mid rising. Obviously, Santino's not going to win this, but it was a funny segment. It was a funny segment. Santino always gets out of laughing, especially when he's like, I took to Ava, and his little weak ass Italian accent. It's hilarious. So that was very entertaining. We did have a lot of mids on here, and a lot of them that we agreed upon. The three that we agreed were pretty much Obafemi versus Yoshiki Inamura and Josh Briggs. Obafemi obviously was going to win that. Great match. Briggs ended up taking the pin, I believe. But again, nothing you could complain about this match. This was obviously great. Obviously, expected outcome with Obafemi retaining. And I believe, again, this is just going to lead up to Inamura and Briggs having a clash and probably going their separate ways. And I can see them having a match at either probably at the next big TNA house TV show, wherever they're on location for, or I know Heat Waves at the end of the summer in a couple weeks, 3 or 4 weeks from now. So you might be able to make it to then, but I can see this happening in a couple weeks as well. Jasper Troy versus Ricky Saints over Ricky Saints via countout. Now, I don't know if this was done on purpose, but they were fighting on the ramp, and I think Jasper did like a backdrop to Ricky Saints on the ramp, and then the camera was panned over to Jasper Troy, and then all of a sudden you kind of hear the sound in the background of something just kind of crashing and falling down, and then you kind of turn over and then you see like a portion of the ramp actually just kind of fell through, and I don't know if that was planned or not. The ref wasn't counting or not. He was telling them to count. Eventually, Jasper Troy jumps through the gap and lands on does like a kind of backsplash on to Ricky Saints. The ref starts counting. He stumbles his way just in the nick of time to get in the ring and get a 10 before the 10 count, and ends up beating Ricky Saints via count out. Interesting. I don't mind the outcome. Jasper Troy looked pretty good in the match as well. Ricky Saints, he always does his thing. I'm just a little. I need to get a little bit more clarification on if that was a planned spot or if that was something accidental. Even if it's accidental, it's not a stickler. It was just kind of just like it. It was it just seemed off-putting when it was happening, and wasn't sure because usually again it happened off screen, and so it doesn't seem like it was expected, and so hopefully everything was fine. I'm glad that Jasper Troy didn't even hurt himself when he jumped in there, because he easily could have hit the back of his head when he jumped in there to do the backsplash. So I'm glad everyone seems to be safe and doing well, and his Jasper Troy and Ricky Saints feud should be pretty fun and entertaining. Finally, Blake Monroe gets her win. I think no, it was her second match against Ren Sinclair, and afterwards, Jordan Grace comes in to try to get a lick on Blake Monroe. She's fighting off security, looking like the tough badass, or as Blake Monroe used to call her, Muscle Muffin, and just kind of elbowing everybody, doing her thing. Almost gets her hand on her, but then Blake Monroe comes out, finally gets a knock on her, puts her in the double arm DDT right onto the chair. Looked really good. Knocked her out. So Blake Monroe and Jordan Grace continuing to build up this feud. All, I would say, mid-rising. Mid-stable for Obafemi, just because, again, I think he's probably done with the Inamura and Josh Briggs. I think they got their own things to handle, so we're going to go on to see who is Obafemi's next challenger. Maybe it is what's his face, Javon Evans, because Undertaker was seen talking to him at the end of the show, talking about like, you need to go talk about, go keep subbing them to them big dogs and show them whose yard it is. Hey, maybe he finally comes after Obafemi again. He almost had a bit of a rivalry a few months ago, so hey, it'd be nice to see Obafemi versus Javon Evans for an NXT championship. That would be definitely fun, and I could see it definitely being the time to actually put him over, especially if you want to put Obafemi into the main roster. Drinking this Gatorade, stay hydrated. What else do we have from NXT? Oh, I will also add to my mids. JC Jane stated in Union address. That's what we're calling it. But she, sorry to take a step back. Time machine news. She, through my doubts, again, that's the character that she's playing, the ultimate underdog or the champion that everyone doubts. JC Jane is now JC two belts as she beat Masha Slamovich at Slammiversary for the winner takes all women's title match, and now she is NXT Women's Champion. She is TNA Knockouts Women's Champion. The WWE has the two main belts of TNA. They have the AAA Tag Team Championship. So it further lets you know what being in a partnership with WWE is going to be looking like if you were any other wrestling promotion in the goddamn world. Your belts are coming to WWE. But I think it works well for the JC Jane character because there is a lot of self-doubt not self-doubt. There is doubt within her character of like if she is capable of being able to hold up this mantle. And it fits the character well. She kind of reminds me a little bit of a Chelsea Green. And that's why I also like this segment because she was out there with her girls. Eventually Lash comes out, start talking her shit, talking about how she should be challenging for the NXT Women's Championship. Jada Parker comes out, says the same similar things. They start going back and forth. JC was like, all right, girls, go get them. And typically you would see in most normal cases, the champion's henchmen or henchwomen in this case would actually just go on cue and go attack. I love the fact that they were like, we ain't doing that. That's all you. And then eventually ended up in some fisticuffs. But I thought that was a great segment. And that was I'm starting to really dig into what is it, Fatal Influence as a unit. And I think JC Jane is doing a good job of being that snarky, I guess, heel champion. It's working well. It's working well. Kind of reminds me of a light version of Chelsea Green, which it's working well for me. So I really enjoyed that. Finally, NXT. Yes, as I mentioned, Undertaker. Well, Trick Williams called out the Undertaker last week because he was talking smack to their actually, Trick was talking smack to the LFG crew that the Undertaker represents. Undertaker called him and said that I'm gonna be there next week. Trick's out in the middle of the ring this week talking about, I'm calling you out, Undertaker, bring your dead ass out here. Undertaker comes out, Undertaker stick happens, tells him he can make him famous. Trick tries to go for a punch, doesn't work, choke slam, you get your Undertaker for the day. So good moment, expected. Houston, Undertaker's hometown, home state. It is what it is. It was fun. It was expected. Trick looked good though, standing in the ring. I'll give him that. Like, that's the thing I think when it comes to these situations, especially when you put it in the ring with someone like Trick with the Undertaker. Undertaker is still a big ass dude. Trick is a big ass dude, and he didn't look out of place standing in front of the Undertaker. So shout out to that segment. I'll give that as a shake as well. But that was a bodega. That was NXT. Fun show. Nothing too special, but again, I think a lot of this is building up. Especially NXT has a little bit of time. They're not doing anything next week for SummerSlam weekend, so they got a few more weeks to build up on some of these storylines and let things marinate a little bit. But nonetheless, we can continue making this stroll down the block with AEW Dynamite. Let's get into this coffee shop for another week in a row, and I believe they're doing a residency because I believe they're also going to be in Chicago next week. But they are again in Chicago. And this week, we had a lot of good things here. Moody, again, higher on me on certain things. Not too far. His primo of the week for AEW Dynamite was the Moxley and Hangman promo kind of conversation that is set for next week. They are challenging for the championship. Mox had a nice little vignette promo talking about how he's ready for another title shot. And Hangman came out. It was a very kind of like man-to-man conversation, which I really appreciated. It wasn't someone just like, not even just with AEW. AEW does it a lot where it's just like everyone's on like energy 10 and they're always yelling at each other. And it's like, I'm gonna die for this. And it's like, bro, like, you could be a little bit more methodical in your approach and with it. And I think they did this really well. I don't think the outcome is going to be any doubted. I don't think they're going to take the title off of Hangman that quickly, but that's why I have to admit I'm cool for the match. I'm here for it. It's going to be entertaining. I don't think we're going to see anything different than seeing Hangman retain this title, but I'm going to be here for it. We do have some agreements on our mids. FCR over Jet Speed. Then we get this whole act. Well, I'll start with the FTR versus Jet Speed. That match was fun. I really enjoyed it. Surprise! Thought Jet Speed would get the win, just because I think again I put them as like kind of like the front runners for the tag team championships, but that's not the case. FTR ended up getting the win. Um, Finally, afterwards, we get Cope to come out and talk about, hey, kind of have, a battle of words with Stokely Hathaway and the FTR. But apparently, Kill can't make contact with them. But he said, I've made a deal with people that like to hurt people that are going to do that for me on my behalf. And nonetheless, who is it? The Hurt Syndicate, because of course they hurt people. And it's like, oh snap, that's an interesting aspect of it. So it seems like we got about FTR versus the Hurt Business, but again, Hurt Business kind of playing the faces in this if they're going to be siding with Adam Cope. But again, they could be like an APA where it's like we do this for a monetary benefit. We don't. This is not a face turn. It's not a heel turn. It's not nothing. We are doing this purely out of a business aspect. Somebody's paying us to do this, and we'll do that. So if you're going the APA route, I really dig that. Because it still keeps you in line that like, hey, this is purely business aspect of it. Finally, we also get continuing that. I thought this was a really good episode for the Hurt Syndicate as far as pushing their story dynamics. MJF comes into the locker room of the Hurt Syndicate, just kind of like, yo, why are you working with her? Why are you working with Adam Copeland and this, that, and the third? And Bobby just had enough of it, gets all in MJF's face, puts his hand around the neck, chokes him up against the locker, and talking about like, we had it up with you. We are not your loyal lackeys or your puppets or whatever. We are done with you, and I want you out of the Hurt Syndicate. And Bobby gives him the thumbs down. So it seems like the relationship between Bobby and the Hurt Syndicate, MJF and the Hurt Syndicate, is over. Which, in line again, you can see that Bobby versus MJF is more down the pipeline. It's not too far, especially the way that MJF be carrying himself and how Bobby sees himself. It just seems like it's going to eventually happen, and seems like we are finally getting the ball rolling on that. So curious to see. Maybe again, this can end up having MJF costing the Hurt Syndicate their tag team titles to FTR. So I'm intrigued by all of this. I thought Cope getting the Hurt Syndicate as basically enforcers to basically be the muscle while he can't have a physical confrontation with FTR and Stokely out of the way. That hey, I was able to curtail the system and get the Hurt Syndicate to do my bidding on my behalf because we have a business relationship as we are talking about this right now. So I thought that was really great. Other things that Moody and I agreed on. Swerve and Hechicero interrupted by the Don Callis family, and then Swerve fights off Okada. Again, great match. I'm a little disappointed that we get interference, but again, it makes sense, with the light confrontation that we had with Swerve and Okada last week. It just made sense that there would be some type of interference. But again, I think more of it is not necessarily on AEW. I think it's just a lot of DQ finishes or no contest finishes, both between WWE and AEW, that it just kind of makes you lukewarm on it, where it's like, damn, like, I wish we had a finish to this match. Whether it be like just finish the match and then do the jumping. It don't always have to be something that caused the match, but I get it. You guys, it's meant to leave a bit of a cloud of mystery on like what could happen. So what the outcome might be, and it gives you a reason to come back to the match later into the future. So not necessarily, I'm not mad against it because it makes sense within the context of the story. I just wish that, it just seems like we have an abundance of no contest finish between both shows that you just wish that we could scale it back a little bit. That's all. That's all I'm asking. Um, One more that add to that for Moody's mids was this goes along with Hangman. He had a match with Wheeler Yuta that he won, and he bloodies him after the match with the chain and talking about Wheeler. They don't want you. They don't care about you. They would have this, that, and the third, and basically beat the dog shit out of him. And so makes you wonder what's gonna happen with Wheeler Yuta and if any of the words that Hangman said to him about his relationship with the Death Riders actually resonates with him, and maybe he makes a turn, and maybe he ends up costing Jon Moxley the title next week because he actually believes what Hangman was telling him. But we'll see. We'll see what comes out of that. Finally, Tony Storm. This is her shakes. We have similar shakes, but I'll start with one that we don't have similar. Is Tony Storm defeating Billy I don't want to mispronounce her name. Billy Starks. Good match, decent match. None, typical as you would might expect. Athena was out in the top balcony area watching it. After the match, they tried to jump her. She looked like she was trying to cash in, but she was eventually stopped by her challenger for her Ring of Honor championship. Athena's Ring of Honor women's championship at on Collision, I believe, this today. I forget her. I'm blanking on her name, but yes, she was stopped before she could do that. But it was cool. It was cool. At least we got the first bit of tease that kind of like Naomi, proceed with caution, and this could happen at any moment. But we put the final thing for AEW, and this is not shake because of the that we don't care about it. It's just when it comes to injuries and the just being concerned about a person, it's hard to put it anywhere else. But like we just want to kind of call it out and mention it. But Will Ospreay came out talking about he needed to take a bit of time off. He had some neck issues that have been bothering him for about he said the last 10 months, so it's been a while, and he wanted to take time to go through surgery, and he's hoping to be back for Forbidden Door, which is in about a month or a little less than a month at this point, like about 27 days. But get well soon, Ospreay. You put the team on your back, and we hope to see you back soon, healthy and 100. And you don't feel like you need to rush. The squad over at AEW has been killing it. Everybody top down on the roster has been killing it. You all just put on one of y'all best shows from top to down. That obviously you want to get back, but we want you back and healthy and strong, and don't feel like you need to meet some arbitrary date of Forbidden Door. If you can do it, you can do it. But listen to your body, listen to the doctors, and come back when you're ready to come back. And the fans will love you. Fans will love you like you never left before. So get well soon, Ospreay. Neck issues are a serious thing, and we don't want you to. There's more than life than wrestling. I know that's in that's your blood. That's what you do. But hey, like I said, man, you don't need to risk it all for us. Like you got a life to live and live your life strong and be strong and healthy before sacrificing yourself in this ring. I know you could say it for character, but in real life, please take care of yourself. So, Ospreay, get well soon. And that is it for the coffee shop. Let's make our way over to the gallery and the Book of Wrestling. Ooh. The Book of Wrestling. We have two historical moments, as far as when I say historical, meaning stuff that's actually happened in the past, and one that will officially become a Book of Wrestling factoid as we move on in the wrestling history. But we'll start off with the old ones first. July 26, 2004, Chris Benoit versus Triple H in a 60-minute Iron Man match. On an episode of Raw in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Chris Benoit retained his World Heavyweight Championship against Triple H in a 60-minute Iron Man match. He won a match 4-3 on the same show. Randy Orton won a 20-man battle royal to win a shot at Benoit's title at SummerSlam, a match that would ultimately win to claim his first championship. Now, obviously, Benoit is a name that is not mentioned a lot at all. It's definitely not mentioned at all in WWE context. And then with wrestling fans, we talk about it, but it's all mainly on the wrestling aspect. And that's where we're going to keep it here because obviously Benoit and what he did was terrible. But I think Moody put this on here mainly because we were talking about it and he was just brought man like, man, I want to see an Iron Man match. We haven't seen an Iron Man match or an Iron Woman match in so long. And he's talking about not no 30-minute one. I want to see a 60-minute one. And I'm like, I can understand the want for that, but it's also like, you going to take away like 60 minutes for a television spot for an Iron Man match? That's kind of hard to sell nowadays. Though I think, again, with the right competitors, you could probably do it. But Iron Man matches are fun. I think one of the problems with Iron Man matches is like, it all kind of boils down to the end of it. So unless somebody is up like, let's say 4-1 with like 10 minutes left or 15 minutes left and they somehow tied up and there's different ways that you can kind of do it, but typically it all kind of boils down like kind of similar to the Brett and Shawn one. That at WrestleMania, that went to 0-0 for the entire match. They went 60 minutes 0-0 and then went into overtime where they finally got a pinfall. And so I think with the Iron Man match is more typically like how do you create excitement throughout the match that doesn't keep people waiting for the last 5 minutes of the match to really be the end point of it. So it could be done, especially with the talent that we have. A 4-3 Iron Man match outcome in the regards of Triple H and Chris Benoit, that's pretty impressive in itself. I mean, these are two great workers. Again, I think you could definitely do it. I would love to see an Iron Man match between like Rhea and Bianca or Bianca or Io and Rhea. Like either Io and Rhea would probably be the one that you probably see one right now, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just would like to see some creativity as far as storytelling goes, as far as how do we kind of get through the 60 minutes with the anticipation of the match always feeling at least no less than an 8. You can't for 60 minutes the hype for the match has to be at a constant like peak for the most part. Moving on. July 23rd, 2012, Raw 1000. Man, that's crazy. 13 years ago. 2012, the 1000th episode of Monday Night Raw, broadcasted from St. Louis, Missouri. And the 3-hour permanent format of the show started for this Hallmark edition, which is being by 6 million viewers on the USA Network. In the main event, John Cena cashed in his Money in the Bank contract against WWE Champion CM Punk. Cena won by disqualification outside of interference from the Big Show. At the conclusion of the show, The Rock intervened and was attacked by Punk, who turned heel. Also on the show, The Miz defeated Christian for the Intercontinental Championship. The wedding segment between AJ Lee and Daniel Bryan ended with Lee walking out on Bryan after being named as the new Raw General Manager by Mr. McMahon, and Triple H challenged Brock Lesnar to a match at SummerSlam. Yeah, as soon as I was like, yeah, I remember something significant happened on Raw 1000, and it was the 3-hour format actually being introduced. And man, we hated it then, and we still hate it now. I'm glad 2.5 hours is good. And if you want to go a little bit over, fine. Like I said, this week's episode went to about 10:40, 10:45. So again, I think the way they got Raw now, where they have the flexibility, they finish usually around by 10:30, but you have that extra 30 minutes of cushion that if you ever need to go to 11, you can go to 11. That means we having a top tier show. We using all 3 hours, but you don't need to. We already have enough wrestling on the week. Thank you enough. The rest of the show, John Cena cashing in and then winning by disqualification, meaning that you don't win the championship. It's just such a blower for someone like that. I'm glad that didn't happen to Naomi. So AJ Lee becoming general manager, I remember that. Yes, as soon as I started to read it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember some of this stuff. I don't remember the Rock intervening and the CM Punk turn, but yeah, pretty decent episode of Raw. But finally, on the book of wrestling, and this is a current event as well, and aptly titling the show of "Do the Right Thing." And I'm gonna try my best to do the right thing. Thursday, July 24th, 2025. Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, passes away at the age of 71. Um, I am not the biggest Hulk Hogan fan, and that's not even saying like that's not even counting the outside of like what happened the last 15, 20 years with him as a person. Even just like I can understand his popularity wasn't for me, but I also grew up during the Attitude Era. I had to go back and watch Hogan matches to try to understand it. And I totally understand it and I totally get it. And we would not be here, and as wrestling fans, I would not be here on a podcast talking about wrestling. WWE wouldn't be on the Netflix and having $1 billion organization. It wouldn't be public. The likes of Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, The Rock, all of this would be completely different if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. And plus all the machinations of Vince McMahon and WrestleMania, all of it. He played an integral part to get wrestling where it's at today. The NWO turning and introducing an old attitude. At the same time, Hulk Hogan was not a good person, both public facing as far as what we have come to know once those races came out. But even when you go back and rewatch a lot of the stuff or hear his peers talk about him behind, there's a lot of selfishness that came with it. Uh, Again, some of it's just competitive business nature, some of it's just being a genuine asshole. But it's kind of a mix. It's kind of a mixed thing. I'm gonna try my best again to borrow Andre 3000 line from to say this old lady told me if I ain't got nothing good, say Nathan, that's why I don't talk much. I swear it don't cost much to pay attention to me. I'm gonna try my best to not dive into so much things because again, tough for time's sake and whatnot. But again, where I stand, I'm not the biggest Hogan fan, but I can respect what the man has did for the wrestling business and getting it to a point where like you inspired a lot of people, both my favorite wrestlers, like he's like your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler. But at the same time, it's hard to not acknowledge, especially as a black man, the the ignorance and the shittiness of Hulk Hogan, both in a public facing standpoint, and also the stuff that again people want to just limit it to just the last 15 years. Once that stuff came out in public, no, it also happened before then. You just didn't know about it, and so that doesn't absolve him for being an asshole. And again, it's kind of fitting in a sense that the last time you were publicly seen on the WWE television, you got booed out the ring. And the one thing with the out of the arena, and the one thing, and those weren't heel boos, those were like, no, we don't like you boos. And that's the one thing about wrestling is you coming home. The Rock could leave, be Hollywood. We could beg him back for how many years? Yo, as soon as Rock come back, you home. Like that's what we are. This is home. This is a family at the end of the day. And for you to come back home, like you could be in the RNC and get cheered. That's not home. When you come home is the WWE. And Undertaker has the same political views as you. Undertaker still get popped. I still pop for Undertaker, even though I don't like the American Badass song. I don't like Kid Rock. That's the Undertaker, bro. And at least Undertaker keep it respectful in a sense. I don't know Undertaker personally. I'm sure he's probably has some fucked up shit, but again, that's not something that we are publicly aware of outside of just his affiliation with the Republican Party and Donald Trump and this, that, or the third. But at the end of the day, Undertaker still get love. You didn't get love when you came home in the WWE, and that's a telling statement. That is a telling statement, and it's a shame that you didn't get the chance to actually be reflective and accountable on your relationship. But again, I can't say anything about it. You lived a long, successful life. It's sad for anybody to leave, and at least you're able to live a long life till you were 71 years old. Like not too many people get to say they get to live that life a life that long, and for you to have the life that you did, where you got to travel the world, be this mega icon, where you can literally just live off of just being Hulk Hogan. Um, there's respect, to all the people that you inspired, but again, it's hard to separate the entertainer with the person in some regards. And I think in this one of the cases, this is where people say it's a little bit of a hard kind of stance to kind of. I have my opinions where I could be hard head steadfast on this, but again, I will give the respect to say you inspired a generation, and wrestling wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. So uh, rest in peace, I guess, Hulk Hogan. Yeah, yeah, rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Let's get on to SmackDown, the final show of the week. And to continue it, the show started off with about the first 15 minutes was a tribute to Hulk Hogan. They came out, they had a 10-bell salute for Hulk Hogan, and then they did their customary um, walking, going through the highlight package of Triple H narrating Hulk Hogan and his impact and his, uh, you know, why he is held in high regards into wrestling and things of that nature. Um, okay, for 15 minutes, as expected, can't knock it. It happened yesterday. It happened on Thursday, so you knew that they were going to have to acknowledge it. And plus, he is literally the icon of the WWE. Most people think when they think about wrestling, you ask my mom, you think about wrestling, she's like Hulk Hogan or like Stone Cold or The Rock, and it's like those are the names that come up. After that, this was the to start off. This would be Reggie, and I believe we both have this as Reggie. Yep. Logan Paul and Jelly Roll. Match build. Don't care. I literally, as soon as it came on, I listened to a little bit. Then I was like, oh, let me go make myself a drink. I do not care at all. We both have this as Reggie, and honestly, first 30 minutes of SmackDown, because the Hogan segment and this took up each about 15 minutes. The first 30 minutes of SmackDown, if you are going to rewatch it, you can skip. There's no reason to watch any of this right here. So whatever. Who cares? That's Reggie. It will be Reggie until we're past this match. There's nothing that you will do to make me care about this Logan Paul Jelly Roll tag team match. So boo that. Boo that all the way. The best thing to come out of this match, this show, was the finale of this match, the finale of this show. Now we had Ray Phoenix and Andrade versus the White Six for the tag team championship. Andrade and Ray Phoenix was that close to winning it. They had it. Then Nikki Cross pulls the goddamn ref out and causes a disqualification. What do we say? So at least they win, but they won because of a DQ. That ended up getting an entire brawl. The entire SmackDown tag team locker room pretty much comes out. You get Motor City Machine Guns. You get DIY. You get the New Day. You're not the New Day. You get the Street Profits. You get I'm blanking on another tag team, but you pretty much got 6 tag teams out there, all fighting the best general manager available on the WWE roster. Nick Aldis comes out, especially with a whole bunch of security and everybody, and just like, I had enough of this. I'm gonna set up with the tag team belts held in the sky. When he said that, I was like, oh, I already know where this is going. I already know. I'm ready for this. I'm glad he said it too, because I thought he was gonna say a ladder match, but I was like, nah, you can't do that. It is SummerSlam, and it has to be one match when you get with tag teams, and that is a tables, ladders, and chairs match, a 6-way between the Street Profits, the White Six, Motor City Machine Guns, DIY, Andrade, and Ray Phoenix, and I want to say I'm blanking on the last one. I'll get it when I get the actual list out. But 6-way TLC SummerSlam, that is going to be the match of the weekend. That is going to be the match of the weekend. I can't wait. I'm so glad he didn't just say a ladder match. I'm glad he said tables, ladders, and chairs. I'm glad he said that. Hey, maybe we might even get the outside interference. Maybe we get B-Fab in there with Nikki Cross and then Candice LeRae. That's already 3. We got to find a few more other people that can come in and interfere. It'd just be like TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. So I'm so happy. That's both of our primos for SmackDown, the highest thing that we have on this show. Our mids, we differ on our mids. Moody's mid is Jacob Fatu defeating the Miz, and then Solo's family tree beat down Jacob and Jimmy afterwards, which was pretty entertaining. I actually liked Miz's kind of call out of Jacob backstage. SmackDown was held in Cleveland. It was in Miz's hometown, and that's funny because I forgot. I definitely forgot. But Miz was talking about like you took me out months ago. You took me out and put me on the shelf, this, that, and the third to Jacob, and I was like, oh, he did that. Totally forgot. But hey, if you said that happened to you, I believe you. So he's like, I want a match right now. Let's go to the ring. And they had a match. Obviously, as soon as because Miz actually smacked Jacob backstage, and I was like, as soon as he smacked him, I'm like, oh, he's squashing your ass, nigga. You are not winning. Especially being at home, because you know WWE don't like to give people from the hometowns a win because it means that like it just gives them more of a reason to cheer for you in a sense. But as soon as he smacked him backstage, I was like, oh, you're not winning this match. But of course, with all the events that happened last week where Jacob was Solo tried to set up Jacob in a hit and run accident, which was actually done by Solo and the whole jail thing, Solo had to get his revenge and he ended up jumping Jacob and Jimmy tried to come out and help, didn't work because Talatonga and crew ended up getting it, and they got them up. They got their lick back this week. They got their lick back this week, so we're just continuing that anticipation in that role till we get to SummerSlam and their cage match for the Intercontinental title or the U.S. Championship. So that should be a fun match. My mid also started with the backstage segment. Jade Cargill was talking to Kathy Kelly, and she was basically just building up hype for her matches and just kind of doing you know face building stuff, which also then led to once she had walked away, Chelsea went up to talk to Kathy and was like, told the Secret Hervis to like you can go away, I'll be good for a moment. And then Chelsea just wanted to get some shit off her chest, talking about like basically disrespecting Jade and talking about how she should have been in the Queen of the Ring tournament, and it's not fair that the fake Queen of the Ring, Jade, had won. And the whole time, Kathy is like, "Yo, Jade is right behind you. Jade's right behind you." And then again, this is the comedic gold of Chelsea Green. When she realized what Kathy Kelly's telling her, she's like, "She behind me? She's behind me," and it's hilarious. Jade ends up whipping her ass all the way from the backstage to the ring. Ref comes out of nowhere, and then apparently we just gotta. I'm gonna take it as an impromptu match. I'm sure it was probably scheduled, but to me it kind of seemed impromptu. A ref came out of nowhere, bell rang, and then we ended up getting a Chelsea Green, Jade Cargill match. Fun match. Easily as you would expect, Jade Cargill hit Jaded and got the 1-2-3. I was a little confused and almost kind of confused, kind of similar in a Lyra sense. Tiffany Stratton comes out for whatever reason as Jade Cargill is getting jumped on by the Secret Hervis and Chelsea Green. Tiffany Stratton ends up coming out of nowhere and she comes to Jade Cargill's help. And I'm like, I don't understand your character. What are you? What are you? Are you a heel or a face? Because you're not a tweener. You got to be something clearly. So I'm confused. Kind of like what Wade Barrett said. Why would she come out and help her? They had a whole moment where Jade grabbed Stephanie's title, put it on her shoulder, and it was like, yo, girl, that is not your title. Why are you doing that? And then she gave it back to Stephanie, but then just didn't let go. And again, at least that stare down. That was a little bit of an awkward segment. I didn't understand Tiffany's rationale for coming to help. Again, like, you're not the champion. Your character is not the person to be like, I want to face you at your peak, this, that, and the third. Your character would typically be like, I don't care if you got beat up. That's not my problem. I don't know if maybe I'm blanking on Tiffany having beef with the Secret Hervis and Chelsea, but I don't recall that. So for her to come out and help just didn't fit within it didn't align with the character of who I believe Tiffany Stratton to be. And then Jade holding the title, she looks great with the title. I think that's part of why they made her hold the title. That's not your title. You should not be doing that. Like, especially when that's the person who came and helped you is in the ring. So little weird, but I get it. You're just building anticipation for the match. I enjoyed it for what it is, but I enjoyed it mostly because Chelsea is comedic gold, and she did a great job of building into a match. But again, that I'm taking it as impromptu, but the segment from the backstage and her just talking all this slick talk about Jade and how she doesn't deserve this, that, and the third, and her realizing that Jade is right behind her and then getting her ass beat. That right there gives me a mid rising for this, and I really enjoyed it. Finally, to end SmackDown, we had a shake, as both Moody and I agree. Uh, Julia has a manager now in the fact of Kiana James, who we haven't seen in months. She was actually appeared, I believe, at the Women's Battle Royal. No, she was. I think she was supposed to be on Evolution, but I think she wasn't even there. But yeah, return of Kiana James. We haven't seen her for months, and she just popped out of nowhere, kind of similar to the Grayson Waller, where it's just like, oh yeah, I'm her manager now, and it's like, okay. I don't think Julia really needs to talk her, but I guess it helps in a sense. Like Julia's not her English is not that broken where she's a better talker than someone like Io, maybe even Stephanie. Stephanie's actually improved quite a greatly amount, especially from like apparently she didn't even know much English almost like a year ago. So to hear Stephanie, cut promos in English, it's very impressive the way she's able to learn it so quickly. I think Julia is a bit better talker than all three of them right now at this current point, but I'm not opposed to Kiana having a role. Just it's nice to see her, and I'm curious to see how it plays off. At this moment right now, we'll leave it as shake, but I am intrigued enough that it could definitely build up. And I think with her business character and her having like an MBA and things of that nature, I think it works well with the character that we're sprinkling some curiosity to see how this kind of continues to grow. But that is it for the boutique SmackDown. That was a great show. Pretty, pretty fun and entertaining. Again, the highlight was the end of the show, which was the all-out brawl of all the tag teams. SmackDown's tag team division is the cream of the crop all over WWE right now. Raw is completely slacking. NXT, I think they've lost a lot because everyone went up to SmackDown, so they're kind of rebuilding a little bit. But SmackDown's tag team division is the thing to watch when you're watching SmackDown right now. So the fact that Nick Aldis, GM of the year, seems like he will defend his title, is set up a TLC match, 6-way match at SummerSlam. Highlight of the show for me. But that is it for the boutique, and it's a pretty quick show. It's hot out here. Just do the right thing. And if you know what do the right thing is, it was hot out there. And they have to make some tough decisions. And you had no tough decisions, but I told you last week I didn't have any champions, and I had to make it up to get 2 for y'all this week, and I got 2 of them. Moody also has one. One of them is a pending title. He wasn't able to come up with the name, but he has a title for Zarya, F5ing Sean Spears. I'll allow him to elaborate on that next week. My 2 champions. The first one I have is the Biff Tannen, make like a tree and get out of here. And if you finish off that on the Back to the Future when Future Biff comes out, is make like a tree and leave, you idiot. Is make like a tree and leave. But this goes out to Braun Breaker when he was cutting his promo back towards Roman Reigns, where he was like, I think you should leave and like get out here and leave. And just again, it's more so Braun Breaker and knowing that his uncle is Scott Steiner and that they are just almost every time I hear Braun Breaker talk, I feel like this is basically the next generation of Scott Steiner. And I'm just waiting to hear those Scott Steiner isms where it's just like you're just such this muscle bound dude freak that just like says weird shit sometimes or shit that doesn't make sense. And when he told Roman Reigns I was like, you need to get out of here or something like that, it just immediately popped in my mind like this is Biff Tannen. And he's like, why don't you make like a tree and get out of here? And it's like, it's leave, you idiot. It's make like a tree and leave. So one of my favorite Back to the Future, I believe his 40 year anniversary was this week as well. So shout out to them, or at least last week. So shout out to Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies. Braun Breaker, you get the Biff Tannen, make like a tree and get out of here. trophy. And finally, the last champion I have for this week is the Big Boy and Gucci from Big Boy off of his album Sir Lucius Left Foot is on Fire. Shine Blockers to Mara Sade arriving in TNA. She made her debut, or she was in TNA when she was with Last Legend and Jakara, but that was when she was, crossing the line. Now she's here as an individual. Mara Sade character repackaged TNA, so you can call it her TNA debut. She was in a six-way tag match with the Iconics versus Ash Elegance and her crew, and they ended up winning the match. But this is a shout out to Mara Sade for just being. Again, she was released a few months ago, and she had an independent match a few weeks ago and somewhere in New Jersey, but now she's on TNA, and it's just good to see her on television and still making the rounds. And I have a lot of faith that that she's going to do well. I can see her developing and eventually winning the TNA Knockouts Championship on TNA. I think she has a lot of character and a lot of I think just getting some, just getting more acclimated in the ring and just kind of tightening up some of those ring work skills, I think will be really good. And again, I think she's gonna be successful in the near future. Hey, maybe make her work her way back to WWE, but I don't think it's necessary. And I think this is one of those to the highlights. Shout out to AEW, NXT, anybody, TNA. Shout out to anybody that's able to again provide an avenue of wrestling at such a high scale. Even though it doesn't have to be WWE, but you're providing it on a television easily accessibly, whether it be through YouTube or through television, but there's easily to be able to hey, just because WWE is not there for you in the cards right now doesn't mean it's end of the career or you need to go work the independent circuit. There are other opportunities for you to be successful. You can see it in the likes of Athena, you can see it in Mercedes Renee, you could even see it in Tony Storm. That just because it didn't work out in WWE doesn't mean it can't work here. You could even see it with Ash Elegance. Dana Brooks was now Ash Elegance is probably doing her best work. So I'm glad that she's getting this opportunity, and I feel like it's going to be a great opportunity for her. And I see the up and up, and I'm a big Lash fan, so not Lash, Jakara fan. So shout out to Jakara, Mara Sade, aka Jakara Jackson. You are my champion of the week. And that is going to be it for episode 55 of the Wrestling Rehab Podcast. Thank you for the person coming in late. We got a couple comments in here. Just got out of the extended Christian revival, 3.5 hours. Thanks, Moody. I figured that you were up and busy this week, but hey, your boy did it. It was a clean hour and 20 minutes. We'll be back. Hey, what up, Katrina? We'll be back next week with having the crew full in effect. It's going to be SummerSlam, the first SummerSlam 2-day party that we're going to have. We probably got about 10 matches. We got 2 points on the line, Moody. Remember that next week. We got 2 points on the line. Night 1 and night 2. Just like WrestleMania. So I don't want to hear no bitching, no complaining. You are hearing this right now live. You guys are live on the stream. We got 2 points on the line. Hopefully, I get both those 2 points and I can keep cutting into the overall lead that you have. But until next time on the Wrestling Rehab Podcast, follow us everywhere on socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe, like, share, follow on YouTube, and do everything on the socials. Interact with us. You can email us at the wrestlingreup@gmail.com. But until then, we'll catch y'all next week for episode 56 and the 2-day SummerSlam preview predictions. It's me, Yahabasha Hayes. Moody, the French Rock Fro, is on the comments. Peace out, everyone. Catch y'all next week.